Qui-Gon, but I forgot to want to leak. Like Liam Neeson, Qui-Gon, but I forgot to want to leak. Like Liam Neeson.
MakingStarWars.net.
Hey YouTube, I'm Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net, and today I'm going to talk about the end of Kenobi. So if you haven't seen it and you don't want spoilers, I don't know why you're here, but you're not going to be happy that you're here. So I would take off. So there's your warning. Today I'm just going to kind of give a brief review of it, a little breakdown of what like hit me, and then I put a link on the Making Star Wars Discord, on the Patreon, and on the YouTube channel members area with a link. So if you guys want to come on and share your thoughts on it, by all means, please do. I know Tom's going to be here today, so I'm happy to talk to Tom and hear what Tom's thinking, because I know everybody's been saying, "What's Tom's thinking?" I'm like, "Hey, whoa, wait, let Tom digest it, let Tom think about it, then we'll hear Tom's thoughts. Don't rush him." So just like up front, I wanted to say that the like lighting in the episode and stuff like that, like the look of the episode so far. The looks of the episodes so far have been meh to like, okay, you know, the final episode, the final two, I feel like for me really did put it together. You know, it is a TV show at the end of the day. We could pretend that it's a movie, but it's not. And so that kind of stuff really worked pretty well for me. And those little moments, the character moments are what sell the show. The character moments are what make the whole thing work, you know. And there's little fan servicey things like Leia with Cornhorn at the end, you know, where they're with Lola and that kind of thing. But like I was kind of mentioning last night, if you watched like my first reaction episode, is that Leia goes into the woods with her toy to be a child. And at the end, she's eschewing her responsibility. She's not doing what she's supposed to do. She doesn't want to be a queen or a princess. She wants to simply, you know, be a kid, which is fine. Like later on, they even have moments with Luke, just let him be a boy. And it's kind of in a weird way because they know that he will come to the maturation on his own. It will work itself out. But Leia messes everything up. She causes the whole problem, and that we start the whole series with. And I like that Lola, you know, when she's hacked or whatever, becomes the big problem at the end, where she makes the world worse for a lot of outside people because of Leia not doing what she's supposed to. Leia doesn't tell anybody. Leia goes in. Leia fixes the gates in the 5th episode. Leia hacks Lola, you know what I mean? Does all of that stuff. And then by the 6th episode realizes, you know what? All of this stuff, it was because of what I did, but this thing is making these people happy right now. That's what these people need right now. And so that moment with Corran Horn, she kind of comes to another realization. But then it hits home even harder because Leia proves that she has, you know, I don't want to say grown up because she's 10, but you know what I mean? She's grown up. She puts the droid in Kenobi's pocket. And in doing so, before he's about to go to like the scariest thing a Star Wars person can go up against, the little droid is in his pocket and he sees it. And there's just this little tiny moment of delight for the character, and that Ewan sells really well. And it makes it you don't forget the I don't know, the fire in the belly, the light in the heart, however you want to conceptualize it. It really truly works. And without going like, well, I'll go all the way to the ending really quickly for this one time. It reminded me the ending for Leia, her whole arc reminded me of Labyrinth in a way, because she's like in Labyrinth, she's this woman or this child who's supposed to, you know, take care of her baby brother, but she just wants to live in the fantasy world. She just wants to play with her toys. And then she ends up going through the labyrinth, and you have all of the toys from her room sort of show up as these characters. And at the end, she grows up. She does the right thing. She accepts responsibility. But then there's that, should you need us moment, if you've seen Labyrinth. And it happens here. Kenobi shows back up. Outside of the David Bowie jam playing, it's pretty much there. So I like that. I mean, it's not a 1-to-1 or anything, but it has that kind of that goodness. I felt a very Labyrinth vibe from it. Aliens in Star Wars need to stop speaking English. And when they do, it needs to stop being the gruff 49er voice. When Luke goes into the shop with Uncle Owen to buy the belt for the ship or whatever that he broke, stuff was good. I liked it, but it's always like, oh, hey, I'm an alien, oh, and it's like, yeah, you done it. Go back to subtitles. But the dynamic between Luke and Owen in that moment was good. This episode did a ton to make us feel that Luke is loved by Owen, that Owen and Luke have a relationship that isn't simply, I inherited you and you're a burden. Because A New Hope, Phil Brown didn't put too much love in there. There's the, like he's going to be like his father, and he's like, that's what I'm afraid of. And that moment is, you can read it both ways, as in I'm afraid we're going to lose my son to becoming like his father, or the world just doesn't need another one of him because he sucks. So you can kind of take that line both ways still, in A New Hope. But now I don't think it that way. Now I know exactly what I have within canon, what it means. Just really quickly, Haja doesn't have a lot in the episode, but the little character moments, I love them. They weren't stupid. Nanjiani rocked it. When he's just sitting there staring at Leia, like, what are we gonna do? He's looking to Leia for like, what are we gonna do? And then he sees Kenobi coming. He stands up and he's all, hey, I talked to her. You're welcome. And it's just like, I don't know. I love it. That kind of stuff is what sells a character over time, over the years, where you start to become like, oh, this is like something that this is someone I want to see on screen more. And that's how I felt about Haja. The dynamic between Owen and Beru, super strong. We got a vibe that they are badass homesteaders, that when they're out there, they're fine. Tusken Raiders aren't going to mess with them. That guy goes up against an Inquisitor. She's hurt, so you could like kind of almost justify it. He does poke the wound, though, goes right for it when he sees it, when he's on the ground, which I thought was, I thought they got Joel Edgerton back as Owen. I knew they weren't going to waste him. Like, oh, hey, Joel, you're having a pretty good career right now. Remember when you were in Attack of the Clones for 2 minutes? How about you come back and do this? He wasn't going to do it for nothing. And I think they did a good job with that. And I see that the room is filling up. I'm going to bring Santa on in a moment. I just don't want to interrupt him. I want to hear Santa's thing, and then I'll start bringing everybody on. The holster going to Leia was a nice touch. I'm just going to say, never mind how Roken found it. It doesn't really truly make that much sense. It's like, oh, there's her holster. But you know what? Cool with me. I'll take it. I don't care, because at the end of the day, what it symbolizes was more important than the actualities of the physical moment. The quiet moment with Kenobi looking at his lightsaber right before the duel, and you have like laser blasts hitting that sound like thunder and lightning almost in the background, was really good. And then he calls to Qui-Gon in the moment, and I was like, all right. And it worked. It worked. It was I felt the fear, and then, like I said, you feel the fear, and then you have the Alola moment from Leia, and it's I don't know, I wouldn't go as far as to say it's heartwarming, but it's really effective. I think if you're easily manipulated emotionally by what goes on with music and all that stuff, it works, and a lot of this did emotionally manipulate me, and I was happy about it. Roken's conversation about it being about Kenobi and Vader, and that their last little thing there too, says something about, because like Roken knows more than he lets on. Like if you study the narrative, he knows calls him General Kenobi. He knows there's like more there, but also we get our first sequel moment there when he says, "I'm just getting started." You don't do that if you're not hoping that it gets picked up and it means something else, that it spins into something else. Star Destroyers looked great. The Lars Homestead looked even better. You know, it looked Tatooine in this last episode for the volume and or the lot in El Segundo looked better than it looks in most of the Tatooine moments in other shows. So happy about that. Reva looked wretched while going to the Lars homestead to find Luke. Like that was not the same person that we saw in the first episode. That's a hell of a character trajectory that we went on with her from point A to Z. And there was a point A to Z. That's the important thing. And I bought it all. I didn't have any logic problems with any of it. I thought it actually made a lot of sense. When we get to the actual duel, though, we have like this bleak place, right? And obviously, like they weren't going to make it Mustafar. It wasn't going to be as involved on this scale of a show that it is. But I did like it in contrast to Mustafar. I was able to make this work for myself. I think it looks good. The environment looked good, but it was bleak. And I thought it was like in a weird way, kind of symbolically fitting that there's these two guys that have been living this bleak existence would meet just like that at that place and then have the duel. I thought the fight was more original trilogy than prequel because everybody kept asking for like the last couple of months, what's it going to be? Is it going to be, you know, Joel just write Labyrinth? But it's going to be, you know, is it going to be prequel of this? I do feel like it had prequel moves, but it looked original trilogy. Like it just had that kind of vibe to it. Really quickly too, the powers that we had kind of, I'm going to call them new powers, but they're really just manipulations of old powers. But Vader has the ability to knock the ground out from underneath you. It's very on the nose symbolism. Kenobi has the ability to lift that and then rise above it. I mean, it's very, very on the nose, but hey, that works. You know, if you're going to have wizards, stuff like that, I'm cool with it. Reva sees the love for Luke in Owen in that moment right there. And Owen, like I said, for the first time says, she's like, you love him like he's your own. And then he's like, he is my own, or whatever he says. I can't quote it verbatim, but like I said, that's the first time I really, really believe that Owen loved Luke. And I don't know if that's necessarily important in the big picture, but you know, as character work, I like it. Yeah. And then when Kenobi shoots the rocks up at the end, badass. I also love when he threw the rocks at Vader. The sequence was the sequence could have been trying to be epic while not doing it, but when you see Vader getting hit with the rocks, you're like, that looks like it sucks. So it worked. It worked for me. Seeing Anakin's face could have been done so cheap. We've seen it done not as well as this. This is the best time it's ever been done, and it was in live action. First time I feel like Kenobi and Vader, I'm sorry, I feel like Anakin and Vader are one and the same. I see it better than ever. Like you can't not see it at this point. And then during that moment with the crack thing, Ewan just has like the alligator tears. You know what I mean? Like his eyes are welled up, I should say, not alligator tears, but they're welled up, and it sells it. And then you have that breathing sound from that pathetic fucking breathing sound from Return of the Jedi playing. It hits me. It works. Also at the end when they have their conversation and he's like, so my friend's truly dead. And then he calls him Darth. Loved it because in A New Hope, he calls him Darth, only a master of evil, Darth. Like that's when he's finally just been like, you know what, man, you are more machine than man. You're twisted and evil. I have to give up on you because I believe in everything else. And that's kind of what Obi-Wan's sort of problem or quest was here. The Palpatine scene, the one I didn't see coming, liked it. Ultimately was a little bit fan servicey. Gotta admit, the only thing that it really effectively does as a scene is have Palpatine, but it does it effectively, is that Palpatine begins to suppress Anakin again. Palpatine is very much making sure Anakin's not popping out, that Kenobi didn't get to his heart. And he's like, and he pushes. So I'm like, okay, I'll take it. Alderaan still reminds me of a Buck Rogers TV show from the 80s that I liked a lot as a little kid. So I kind of like it for that reason, but it was fun. Yeah. Oh, also kind of funny when that Leia's happier to see Lola when Kenobi arrives. If you guys watch it, she's like Lola, and she runs right for it. I just thought it was like pretty funny. Leia and Kenobi's parent scene, once again, she resolves the whole Leia's parent issues that are resolved in the story. And the moments where she's just like where Kenobi is telling her about her parents indirectly works really good. And it didn't resolve I knew my mother, my real mother stuff. It didn't resolve that, but it does when you watch Return of the Jedi now and Leia goes, I've known, somehow I've always known. She should know like exactly what's up to some extent with all of these conversations, but it's never been like hammered home. It's never been fully articulated. I felt that better. And yeah, but basically I loved it. I am more than happy with the show. I want to watch the show again, and that's the biggest thing that I can give it. It's the biggest thing I could say about it. And like I said, I'm happy. I hope everyone else had a good time. And if they didn't, I hope the next thing makes you happy. And hey, Santa, sorry to keep you waiting there, dude. And
no, it was fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm gonna bring on Tom and Joel too with us. Hey Tom.
Hey guys.
And then
I love
Joel is not connected, so I can't bring you on, Joel. It says device not connected for some reason. But
Jason,
but yeah,
just to chime in on one thing you were just saying too, when at the end in the duel, Anakin kind of lets Obi-Wan off the hook. You know, he's like, hey, you know, you didn't make me this way. I made me this. Like, I killed Anakin. You didn't kill him. I killed him. And I felt that was a real powerful moment too, to like kind of, you know, cleanse Obi-Wan of any guilt that he might have had. You know, it was him acknowledging that Vader killed Anakin. You know, I like that moment.
Right. And I've watched it 3 times now. And in that moment, I can't tell if Anakin is giving a sadistic smirk or a scowl, but I like that it has a Mona Lisa quality to it. I'm like, what is the expression here? But it scares me. Like that's, I really, really, really dug it. So yeah, Santa really
and as
quickly.
I mentioned before we came on the air, you know, again, when Obi-Wan's talking to Leia, you know, on her level and just talking about how, you know, the best qualities of Padme and Anakin that Leia possesses. I thought that really hit home. I mean, that was just something that I was teared up. I was very emotional throughout most of the episode. I loved it. And that moment really, you know, struck me as just recognizing who the best qualities of the parents and letting Leia know that she kind of possesses them. I thought that was great.
Yeah. Remember that documentary from Star Wars to Jedi, The Making of a Saga? It's narrated by Mark Hamill, and in it, they break down Return of the Jedi, and it's probably, I think, has maybe my favorite Star Wars documentary that they ever made. And in it, though, there's just like this breakdown of Luke. It's very quick, but it just talks about how in these certain moments he embodies all of the world's possibilities of good and evil. Like it's like Luke is right at the precipice of what are you going to be, dude? How's it going to go? And they did a good job, I felt like, of almost calling back upon that idea with Leia. Not that we're wondering if Leia is going to turn evil, because we're not, but we're like, you have obviously she has the qualities of her mom to, you know, date Tusken killers, and also like Han Solo. I'm kidding, but also like the ability to become, you know, a punk. She could do any of these things. All the world's possibilities are there, but she has the ones of the mother and the father at their best when they're good. And you're like, and like he's looking at that. Not such a big character moment because he was a little pissy pants when we started this. He didn't see the good in anybody or anything. And now he's able to see the good from Anakin in that little girl. That's a pretty big character progression, and I bought it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and I also like talking about the character progression with him earlier in the show. He wants to train Luke, or wants to know what his sensitivity level is with the Force, and then at the end he's like, he just needs to be a little boy right now. Like, give him the toy, let him be enjoyable. And I thought that was cool too, because it's taking a separate path from Anakin and letting him just be a kid, and going into the Force naturally. I thought that was a cool moment too.
Yeah. And Santa, how happy are you? I haven't got to hear.
I'm a happy Star Wars fan. I'll tell you that. This episode was fantastic. 10 out of 10. And just
10 out of 10?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The power went off at the substation again. So we're hosted by Verizon Wireless again. So you know what that means. Hopefully I'll be here. Maybe I won't. We'll see. But 10 out of 10. I loved it. I thought it was. It gave me all the things that I could want as a Star Wars fan, for me personally. I tried to think, is there anything that this episode didn't deliver to me? And the answer was no. So 10 out of 10 for me. And you know, you guys made a couple of really good points. And Tom made me remember that when they were doing the battle and Vader knocks Obi-Wan into the hole that he created. He calls him, he says, "This is why you lose, master." Like, at that point, that's Anakin.
Yeah.
Like, you know, this battle between Anakin and Vader that's going on inside of him, that's Anakin. Like, why would Vader, like this whole argument about are Anakin and Vader the same, or are they different? You know, Vader killed Anakin. And he goes on to say, "He's dead. I killed him." And then that's when Kenobi says, "All right, Darth," right? Which was a great connection back to A New Hope. But at the same time,
I was going to say that's a great connection to the different point of view situation in the original trilogy. It's you know, this is Vader saying, "I killed Anakin," which is what Obi-Wan tells Luke 10 years later or 8 years later.
Good point. Whatever. Very good point.
Yeah.
So it doubles down on the certain point of view that George's retcon, right? And I love that they put those elements in there to kind of bolster that. And you know, there's a lot of hay been made about Leia knowing that Obi-Wan is Ben is Obi-Wan. A lot of hay over that. Yeah. And yesterday, somebody on our Discord suggested, "Hey, I'm going to watch A New Hope tonight just to get ready for it." So I did. I watched A New Hope. I thought, that's a good idea. Yeah. At the beginning, Leia does send the message in R2 that says, "Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope," right? That's in the line. Later in the show, right, you get along, Luke shows up. "Aren't you short to be a stormtrooper?" Right? He shows up to let her out of the detention cell. And they're bantering, and he says, "I'm here with Ben Kenobi," right? And she goes, "Ben, where?" And she jumps up and runs with him, right? Wait, how did she know that Ben is Obi-Wan? I mean, worst disguise ever, right? Let's go with that. But still, all this hay that's been made about, hey, how does Leia know that Ben is Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan is Ben? It causes continuity errors. It actually fills a continuity gap if you thought that those two identities were a really good undercover persona, right? Yeah, because like originally in A New Hope, when she says Ben, like, I think she's like happy that might be happy that she's going to have like the help escaping, but also why did that stupid ass bring the plans back to the Death Star? I think that was like the original kind of like meaning behind it, but it's just George Lucas writing, so it could mean whatever you want it to mean in 5 minutes, you know, because it's just meant for you to go, okay, what's next and what's next and what's next, and you could really make this stuff not work for you if you want to make it work against you, but you know, if you want to continue to have an expanding Star Wars universe, you go, okay, sure, I'll go with it. You know what I mean? That's fun. I would rather have fun. That's fun.
This comment earlier, just to chime in real quick too, with things that what was missing, and the only thing I heard Rob talk about it in the podcast from last night, I did think that they missed a golden opportunity for Vader to say, "Now I have the high ground." when Obi-Wan was down in the hole, and not to say, look, it's nothing that's going to break the episode for me by any stretch, but I just felt like I was waiting for him, as I heard Rob say last night, like I was waiting for him to say, "I have the high ground. Now what are you going to do?" kind of thing. Like I was waiting for something to kind of come of that, but it's
Yeah.
that's just being really nitpicky. But again, it doesn't kill it by any means. I just thought it was a missed opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a fan of don't choke on your aspirations. I know some people get banned as shape about that stuff. I like bad guys with really good one-liners like that. You know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean? That kind of stuff.
yeah,
It makes me happy.
yeah.
Like
Me too.
even the Grand Inquisitor in this, by the way, though, I'm gonna say he has some pretty good. He's just such a little asshole. He's just like comes hello, you know, it's that little thing he does. I'm just like, all right, you're very memeable, but I love it.
Oh, I did too. And if I were going to nitpick, you bring up the Grand Inquisitor. If I was going to nitpick something, it's his height. Like he's a short standing next to Vader. Looks like a stubby guy. And already a lot of people have made a big deal about his head, but he's also not as tall as he appears in Rebels, right? So again, that's a nitpick for me. I'm not hung up on it. But people that's important to, and that characters' attributes are important to them. I can understand a nitpick around that.
Because there's always a bigger fish. That's the whole thing. Is you guys got to realize that.
Well, at the same time, you want to show Vader's stature, right?
Yeah.
You don't want a Vader to appear too short. So that's the counter argument to that. Well, it enhances Vader's size by having the Grand Inquisitor so much shorter. Again, is he as tall as he is in Rebels? And does he have the same attributes as he does in Rebels? Not exactly. But the point is made. And for the bulk of the audience watching it, it works. It works because Vader's stature is so much more of a presence, right? Like, he's towering. Yeah, he's towering over the Grand Inquisitor.
When I saw that this morning, I noticed it, and when I saw it, I was actually like, I was happy about it when I saw it. I was like, whoa, I thought he was bigger, and I'm like, Darth Vader's even bigger. Like that was my the dumb kid in me was like, whoa, you know, and I guess if you're like a super, you know, Grand Inquisitor fan or something, maybe you're like, oh, I don't know about that, but I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, there have been a lot of critiques also in the show in the past about previous episodes where Vader wasn't shot perfectly, maybe is the best way to say it. Yeah. And I felt like they did a great job of how they captured him in the episode this week. I mean, I thought episode 6 epitomized Vader. He looked great. He looked great at all times. The angle when he's coming off of his shuttle, just the back. I thought Vader, they sold Vader to me hook, line, and sinker. Like, I loved it. I thought it was great.
It does seem like it took them a little bit of time to hit their stride with him. Like in the first episodes, there was the earlier episodes, there was a little bit of like, okay, like that didn't work, or that doesn't look as good as it could, but that is just Darth Vader walking down a hallway or whatever. And you're like, okay. But when we got to the 5th episode, I started to feel like that's when it fixed. And in the 5th episode is when I think though there were maybe more Vader shots were lifted than were actually, like when I say like lifted, I mean like they shot it just like in Return of the Jedi. They shot it just like this one moment in Empire. There was more of that going on. But when we got to this one right here, they weren't doing that anymore, and it was shot well. So I feel like however this worked, they did figure it out by the end of it. You know, how to shoot him in a complimentary fashion. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple other things that occur to me. One thing that I've seen is speculation about them releasing a movie cut of the series. And somebody did the calculation. I was going to, but figured the internet being what it is, somebody would do it, and they did. The content, it would be somewhere in a 3-hour, 50-minute.
I don't know, Santa. I looked the Canadian theater chains are telling me it's like 5 hours and 28 minutes.
Well,
no, I'm kidding.
That's if they do the intros and outros on all of them. But but somebody said it was 3 hours and 50 minutes. Again, that's the internet. Take it for what you will.
Yeah.
Let's say let's for the purpose of this say that's right, and you were to break the episode into thirds, right? Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Act 3, I think, as in large part is the best, right? Which is, if you're going to do a movie, Act 3 is what you want people to remember as they're leaving the theater. But you got to get them there too, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to lose your audience before they get there.
They can't be asleep by the time you get to Act 3, or it doesn't matter how good it is, right?
Especially in a 4-hour movie, right? If you're going to do it that way. So I'm not sure how well the series as a whole, like put in a movie, gets you to Act 4, right? It starts off good, but then you got to, or Act 3, you got to get to Act 3, and there's a bit of a gap to get there. And I'm not sure how well it carries. I'm anxious to, if they do a movie cut, I'm anxious to watch it, and I'm anxious to see how well it does perform in that perspective. But
I've had discussions with my friends similar to what Santa's talking about. To me, looking at the other side of it, that originally it was going to be a movie, and they turned it into a 6-episode TV series, and so they had to extend it a bit. And those earlier episodes feel like where they kind of put in some filler, to kind of get us to the third act, as Santa so eloquently put. And I think that's where kind of I would cut out a lot of stuff from those first 4 episodes and streamline it, and then the meat is in that third act. And I think that's kind of, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they make a movie into a TV show, but that's where I presume they've kind of converted it and added time to make it a little bit longer. But that, I've had the same conversation with my Star Wars friends that have said, like, well, it's kind of a little bit boring at the beginning, but these last episodes have been amazing. And we're like, yeah, well, that might be where the movie had to get extended.
Yeah. It would be, I if they do that, I don't know if I've never heard anything about them doing it one way or the other, but if they did do it, I would be interested to see if it works better or worse as like a character piece. Cause it ultimately, I mean, it's an ensemble story with full of ensemble cast, but it's also a character piece on Kenobi at the same time, which is a weird thing to do in a way. But since it's so like linear, I could see them speeding it up quite a bit. The fact that it's just from A to Z, boom, 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 everything that happens. You could make it kind of, I think you can make it book if you really wanted to. But at the same time, I'm pretty happy with it, like in terms of the fact that it's sort of like it has a crescendo to it. We kind of, we go from very small and we completely build the guy back up. And there's just like elements of that work really well for me in this format, that I'm glad we have it in this format. Or I should say it's one of the advantages to having it in this format is that we get that fully, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the complaints that we've had recently, and it has to do with modern audiences, is that the movies don't have enough breathing space to allow the story to fully be told. And so some parts of movies seem clipped, right? They seem like we went through that too fast, and they become they can become really thin. And people say, wow, I really would have liked to seen this explored more. I'd like to see this character develop more. I would have liked to seen, and the list is long. So one thing that you end up as an advantage in a series is you can explore all those themes. You can explore all those characters. You can develop the story much deeper, and the characters much deeper, and allow it to breathe. So if this were put together as a movie, I don't think it would be 3 hours and 50 minutes, right? There's no way. It would have got cut in somewhere, right? In editing, they would have cut that thing down. And
the movie version, from what I understand, from what I heard, like some time ago, but from a very reliable Lucasfilm person, was the movie itself had a different setting and stuff. It was different. Some of the same archetypes are there. Like Tala is there, but I think Tala might have had a different name. I don't know, but it's different. It was just a lot like it's so it was like way more condensed. But you know, Leia's there, like the same pieces are kind of on the board, but it wasn't the same game necessarily.
So I'm gonna look at my fandom crystal ball and tell you,
Okay.
here's what's going to happen. Somebody in this fandom is going to take all of these and they're going to cut Reva out
Oh no,
entirely. That's
Nah,
happening. It's
Yeah.
happening, right? It's a crystal ball. I'll guarantee
not.
somebody's going to do that. They'll do that to quicken the pace and tell the story in a shorter timeline. And
Was it real that somebody cut all of the ladies out of The Last Jedi?
They did.
Was that
They
real
did.
or was it a joke? I never knew if that was a joke because it was so silly.
No, it happened. Yeah, it did happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stupid.
are so dumb.
But people will do that, right? It's the internet. It's modern fandom. That's what will happen, and it'll make it a shorter run, and then everybody will praise how great it is without Reva in it. Just
I hope not, but because
be
of that,
prepared.
yeah, the big thing about it for the people that are like that want it to be all about Kenobi, the thing is that Reva is all about Kenobi.
Yeah.
Reva is the exact product of Kenobi's failure. She's the result of the bigger picture of what he messed up.
Yeah.
And the atonement between them is a lot of how he lets the past go.
Yeah.
You know, with that character. Without it, it's you could just go, well, he just got good with it. And I mean, yeah, you could say that. You can. I mean, that's what we just assumed for all of those years. But if we're gonna dig into it and actually like expand Star Wars, you must expand Star Wars, right? Is that how it goes?
That's right. That's what I heard.
We're just making fun of Tyga's quote because we're dumb. But he completely has to confront that past. And you know, you could do it in memories, but that doesn't. The thing about like using like the post-traumatic stress to sort of angle on things is like when you are stuck with post-traumatic stress, you're kind of stuck in a loop. You're just continuing. You're not really working through it necessarily with post-traumatic stress. You're stuck in it. Like that's a big difference psychologically. I mean, obviously, it doesn't need to be realistic psychologically. Like I don't really believe the Joker's I'm crazy now because I got acid on my face. But you know, I don't need it to go that deep. But if we're gonna go there, if we're really gonna do like a human story here, then you do have to have them atone. You do have to have him atone with the past somehow. And he can't do it with Anakin. That's the other thing. Like I was talking about last night, like my critique of the thing even existing is the fact that it, in most ways, Kenobi and Vader, their relationship can't really change. Not really. All they can do is air their grievances at the 10-year reunion. And that's what they did. You know what I mean? And it was powerful because they have big things to say. So the other people on the board are what matter. Like whether you like Roken or you don't, but Roken's journey and the path and Tala, that stuff like matters. And so it's all of these other things now that Kenobi has a chance to also atone for by helping fix these things, helping these things succeed. He's fixing the past. As opposed to just going, well, this is reality now. I'm going to live in the cave and I don't have to help anybody. Because the whole like Obi-Wan Kenobi being a hermit thing could just make Kenobi like the worst hero in the whole world.
Well, let's build on that because my friend Rev Kev, he did a little video on it today. And one of his major complaints is with God Power Kenobi, why doesn't he keep pursuing Vader? First of all, he doesn't finish him there. But why doesn't he just keep pursuing him and then waits for Luke to come along and say, well, you're our only hope, right? Like, how do we get from God Power Kenobi in this episode to where we end up in?
Meg's and Bacon.
There's Meg.
Hello.
I'm in trouble now. I'll go hide in my cave.
I had to bring balance to the Force. I sensed there was too much Disney shell.
Uh-oh. Meg, were you happy, Meg, or were you not a happy Meg?
I was a very happy Meg.
Good. Me too. I'm happy Meg too. Yeah. Well, because I mean, you and I are I think compared to most, I think we're pretty big prequel people.
Oh yeah.
And so when did you feel like this kind of, do you feel like this enhanced Revenge of the Sith for you?
I do. I felt like they really stroked us. Gave us a good stroke.
Yeah. And she means
Or
like fanning the
know,
flames.
To use a Christmas analogy, I guess we emptied our sacks early this year.
I knew. I was I was waiting for the quote that you sent to Sheev this morning, Meg.
What was that?
Yes. About Darth Vader's ship ramming the small transport.
Yeah.
Really hit it hard in the end.
In the end. Yeah. Poor Roken. Poor Roken.
He had a Roken backside after that.
So Meg, I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but you were fairly mixed throughout this series. You had I feel like it had ups and downs for you, right? Is that an accurate reading?
That is right.
So now that we have 6 episodes, now that it's done, it's a complete text. Where are you at with it?
I like the story. I see what they were going for. I think it was too premature, Santa, too premature to judge the series after episode 3 or 4, which were for me like a down point in the series. But I loved 1 and 2, and then 5 and 6 really hammered home what they were going for story wise.
Yeah. I think so. It was 6 your favorite one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a troll. I swear, I'm not trying to have a hot take. 5 is still my favorite one.
It's a good episode.
I just like where everything comes together in it, and then obviously I almost feel like this is just an addendum to 5, which it's all one thing at the end of the day. But yeah.
5 and 6 are great.
Yeah, I watched 5 and 6 together today. I put 5 and 6
great.
on and ran right into it, and yeah, it could have been.
Jason, I think you guys were talking about it before too, in that I know that it's a business model and they want people to subscribe for 2 months basically, but I think that if they would have dumped all 6 episodes at once, that there would not have been the negativity over this past 6-week or 5-week period that we saw, because as Meg just said, it's a great cohesive story, but there were down moments in that story, and we had to wait. And in today's world that Santa was speaking of, and instant gratification, the internet, everybody go out and complain if they don't like something. If we would have gotten it all at once, I think a lot of Star Wars fans would have binged it pretty much at once, and we would have loved it at once. So
yeah, you would have been overwhelmed with.
My opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you. Because that's what I think they were going for. Of like, oh, maybe people won't have time to watch it all at if we do it weekly. Because if we drop it all at once, then people could watch it in one subscription. But maybe they won't have time is all that they could really hope for, and then it would go for 2 months. But at the end of the day, it all played within a month, and it's only like 3 hours and some change. So I think they should have launched it all at once, or made it a huge movie.
Yeah, and I see a lot of comments here saying like, had they released it all at once, the hate wouldn't be nearly as high as it was through the weekly release.
Yeah.
And I am seeing on Twitter today, probably the bulk of comments are the positive side of it. There's certainly detractors. There's certainly a group of people who are more negative. But I think that, and I'll just ask, what do you think? Will this age well? Will it moderate over time, given now that the entire series is available, and even the people who were salty, let's say in episode 4, Meg, would be maybe a little more lenient now. We had a really salty Meg a couple of weeks ago. I'm just saying.
We'll let Meg go for it. What do you think, Meg?
I think it will age pretty decently, probably better than the Book of Boba Fett, which I think had a lot more problems, structure-wise, writing-wise, but I guess we'll wait and see. I think the unfortunate reality going forward is that the Andor series probably won't attract as much attention at first, maybe kind of if it picks up traction. So I think the Kenobi show's numbers will continue to increase, which they tend to do. If you look at The Mandalorian season 2, in the the weeks and months following it.
Yeah, it did grow. Yeah, what do you think, Tom? What do you think do you think its legacy will be?
I think it's going to get better. I think it's going to get stronger. I think it's a great bridge. I think it bridges 3 and 4 excellently. And I actually want to go and watch 3, Obi-Wan, and then 4. I mean, I'm excited to do that with my kids. So
yeah,
when I have time, I want to do, like, you know, if it's a rainy weekend, I'm hoping I can watch them, you know, sit down and take 2 days and watch everything.
Yeah, that's kind of how I look at this one, is that it's not like really a hard, it's not like a difficult watch. Like there was a point, like I respect Rogue One, but I had a hard come down from that one, where I'm like, this one is like it's a big bummer. There's kind of a point where you're just like, yeah, you know, I don't really want to see Darth Vader murdering everybody for you know, like one of the features of the movie. I was like, I wasn't in the mood for it. And then after it sat for a while, then I was like, oh, I love this movie again. Like I kind of like fell back in love with it. This one though, it falls like in that Revenge of the Sith kind of like it's dark area, but it's not also, I don't feel like it's weird. He's depressed in it, but it's not like a big bummer because of the other characters that he meets. Depressed guy with Leia, depressed guy with Haja, like that stuff. I actually like that, the dynamic. So I think it's going to be a show that I'll be able to watch over and over the years here and there and enjoy it. And I think that the poor production value at times, or the parts that we have considered to be poor production value, or things that we haven't liked, will eventually just get chalked up to, well, that's how stuff looked in 2022. So what? I like the science fiction, or I like the space people. I mean, that's what we kind of end up doing with stuff as it ages out a little bit, usually too.
Yeah. Well, that raises another point. And before I ask, I kind of go back again to what about the issue of God like Kenobi? Why doesn't he chase Vader? And is that a problem now that we've had super strong Kenobi? Or does that go in the same category as Yoda or anybody else? Like, they go back into hiding. Yoda never came out of hiding that we know of to this point. That could get retconned anytime. But does it create a continuity issue that now Kenobi's going to go hermit again, presumably, and not pursue the chase?
Well, I think the mistake is making the assumption that Yoda ever told the truth. He was full of shit. Even the way
No
he
kidding.
talks is completely a troll.
Yes.
He probably went to McDonald's quite a few times, went off world, met at the rendezvous point, you know.
That's
made love to
true.
Yaddle.
Yeah.
100% true.
I'm gonna say I think in terms of story, the answer is no. Because in story he's has emotionally hit a high point, and then he's able to deflect that amount of vitriol, hate, whatever you want to call it, from Vader. And so I don't think Obi-Wan can just go around picking up rocks, or would go around doing that all the time. He wouldn't. It's completely, it's a defensive moment in terms of the story. And I don't think it's something that he would just go around doing. So I don't think he could just, like, you know, get on a skiff, fly near an asteroid, and just start throwing rocks at the Death Star to like destroy it or something like that. Like, I think he'd have to be on a really emotional high, I think, to get there. And but I also think that the theme of the story isn't necessarily the fact that throwing rocks at Darth Vader is how you win. The theme is the belief in all of these good people that are resisting these bad people and this bad thing. So he's come to the conclusion, like it's not all me as well. That's another big part of it, I think, is at first he's like, I'm responsible and I'm the only one who could fix it. Like Yoda tells him to go kill Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. He's like, you got to go do it. And he's like, I can't do that. But and then he doesn't. You know, he thinks he does, but he doesn't. And so it's all on kind of on, he realizes it's not all on his shoulders in reality. It's on Leia. Like, that's what he tells him. Like, he's like, Roken, you have to survive. You have to keep doing this. And he tells Leia, all the stuff he's doing is realizing that it's not going to be done the old way. It's not going to be done by himself. So the idea of it turning into someone who I think really believes that is really like, that's what this is. It's like, that's like a Taken model for telling stories. like Liam Neeson's just going to go beat the shit out of everybody and get his daughter back. Like, that's not really, there was aspects of that here, right? But that's not really what this is. I think it's a different animal. So I don't know. It doesn't really bother me. But do you think it's a problem? We didn't actually hear your opinion on that, Brian. Santa?
Well, I was curious what Meg thought.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's a problem, and I threw Yoda's name in there on purpose. Like Yoda came toe to toe with the Emperor in Revenge of the Sith, right? Like Yoda's quite capable, but he's presumably in hiding, and then now we know the number of Jedi have in hiding is substantial, I'll say. So that they go back into hiding again until A New Hope. At that point, Obi-Wan's past his prime. I don't think that he's back to any kind of depressed state again, but he's waiting for the new generation to come along. He's waiting on Luke and putting his hope into the next generation. And just as somebody who's in their mid-50s now, and I have lots of experience in my life, in different areas of my life, I'm having to look at the next generation and give them the opportunities, step out of the way and let them go. Even though I have the experience, I have the knowledge and the capability, it's about empowering the next generation to come up and to be there as a mentor for them. So for me, I see that very similar, just in my own life, right? Like, so that Kenobi sees young Luke and presumably Leia, but Luke as that next generation coming up, and to be there to mentor him, which he does, fits.
Yeah. Well, also too, Qui-Gon at the end. Also, I think if it is a big problem for anybody, it does. Qui-Gon's like, we got work to do. So just that dumb little line of "we got work to do," it resolves it though, doesn't it? Like at the end of the day, it says like we have to go, because that ability to be that little ghosty man is what pops in Luke's ear, and how he blows up the Death Star.
Yeah,
when he says "let go, Luke," that doesn't happen without kind of that next phase of the training stuff. And obviously, it wasn't needed to go. All of this wasn't needed. The story worked fine without this, but this is it. This is enhancing it and giving us new stories to fill in those gaps. So I'm cool with it personally. I'm happy. I'm a happy guy.
I always kind of wondered how Luke didn't get a jump scare when he heard the voice of an old man in his ear. It's like, oh fuck, and then he,
Yeah,
blows up his own ship or something.
I rewatched A New Hope last night, and he hears that, and he taps his helmet like tap tap tap. Wait,
command control. I have the guy from the bridge over the River Kwai coming in my earpiece. Somebody watching a DVD. Can you turn that shit off? I'm trying to blow up the Death Star right now.
right? That's exactly what happens, and I'm like, it's so much funnier now.
Do you reckon Obi-Wan whispered, "Use the Force, Luke," in his ear for multiple situations, not just for the heroic Star Wars stuff?
Probably.
Just like, when he was banging his sister before he knew Leia was related to him.
No.
Use the Force.
No, Luke, no, run. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. The other part that you made me think about is the technology. So if the prequels, George didn't hold himself to the standard of movie making for the original trilogy to apply that to the prequel trilogy, right? So we see effects and things, battles, everything is enhanced in the prequels over the original trilogy because technology had come along further and sort of the modern storytelling elements came along. There were a lot of complaints about new powers seeping in every movie. Like, where did this come from? That wasn't there in the original. How come it's there in the prequels? R2 flying, all that kind of stuff, right? George didn't hold himself to that. And when we get to Kenobi and we see Vader's powers and Kenobi's powers that were not displayed in any other context. Some of the complaint is, well, you're doing it again. You're like adding things that shouldn't be there. But to me, that is the essence of Star Wars in pushing the boundary forward and allowing the story to move along with the modern audience. Elsewise, in the prequels, he would have been held to R2 rolling around. He would have been held to some of the more reserved fighting techniques. It would have been more, less of technology involved in some of the space scenes. So it could have been much more toned down if he held himself to that. And since he did the storytelling the way he did, original, prequel, in that order, he just is like, I'm not worried about this, right?
Yeah.
And so this doesn't bother me because it's in that same sort of context. And as you said, I think 20 years from now, when I'm talking to my grandkids and like I did with my kids, I'm like, okay, so here's what's going to happen. This is going to look really old to you, right? When they watch the original trilogy, and they're like, "Wow, that's terrible." I'm like, well, it wasn't at the time, right? So you have to keep that in mind, and it'll be the same way. Like some of the CG and the prequels doesn't age well to today's standards, but it wasn't that way at the time, and the digital effects that Lucas added to the originals don't look good at all, right? The dewbacks in A New Hope are terrible, but you just have to understand, like, it's coming along. And so when you get Kenobi kind of sandwiched in between those two, and from a visual aspect, it doesn't have the same sort of digital cohesiveness.
Continuity.
Yeah, that I just like, okay, I can let that go because we're going to obviously move forward as time passes, and as the volume technology gets better, as they get more refined in things 20 years from now, I'm sure even Mando will look a little more sketchy,
For sure. I think so too.
I think Star Wars always evolves and has to change. And Santa's favorite part of the prequels was Anakin being 6.5 inches deep into Padme.
Mhm.
Innovation.
I love you so much.
Yeah, no, I mean that is where I am on board with both the really good side of the volume and the shitty side. Is that Star Wars has always been about using state-of-the-art technology and storytelling and trying to find how to make it work, how to further it. Sometimes sometimes it nails it, sometimes it doesn't. But we only really like the stuff that we grew up with. We tend to focus on the stuff, the times when they nailed it, because that's what we liked. That's what we like as kids, or we're young people. We're like, yeah. And then, but when you look at some of that stuff today, you're like, oh yeah, that's not really like that good looking. If this came out today, I would criticize this on YouTube or whatever. But it's like, but in reality, it's sort of like, who cares about a lot of the stuff? I'm not saying, but I also don't mean to like imply we shouldn't have standards, that we should just be like, do whatever you want. Disney, as cheap as you need to do it. Like, that's cool with us. I don't mean to imply that either. Like, things do need to be like critiqued and stuff. But like I gotta say, I wanted to ask you, Meg, because I know you're into the music stuffs. Did you find that the score in totality with where we ended up by the end of it, did you feel like it was like thematically on, or were you disappointed?
So I kind of covered this a bit in my breakdown near the end of it. I enjoyed the use of the 3 themes, which was Imperial March, Force theme, Leia's theme. It just adds so much more dimension. It's so much more believable as a Star Wars project.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed with the score until now, because it was just all a variation of the new theme by John Williams, which is kind of depressing as a theme.
Yeah, because I was paying attention to it today. And when we get to the moment where Vader and Obi-Wan are fighting, I was like, you know what? I kind of like this music. I think I like this music, but it's still a bit new to me. I don't listen to classical music enough to hear something and necessarily right off the bat go like, oh, this is great. Sometimes I have to hear it a couple of times before I kind of understand the longevity of it, you know. But as I was watching it, and like we get to the end part with Leia, with Obi-Wan, and their talk, and then Leia's actual theme plays, I was like, well, this moment really works because of them holding back and not using Leia's theme throughout it. And I was trying to, I don't actually have an opinion. I don't know what the answer is on that. Like, was it worth it or not? I don't think I'll know until I watch it a couple of times. But I am curious if in the end that moment works so well because of holding musically, because of holding back or not. But I do think most of the texts I got today from friends who aren't like, you know, on Star Wars social media and stuff, most of it was like, did they even play the Imperial March? What the hell? I'm like, well, yeah, they actually did, but by the time they did it, you would have already asked probably yourself where it was 15 times, so it didn't matter. So I kind of wonder if in that moment that was a mess up on their part. Because kind of like what you were saying, if people are asleep by the third act, they're not gonna. It doesn't matter how good it is, and but in the third act, that's when we got our Imperial March moment. It's when we got our Leia's theme moment, and but we never got our Duel of the Fates. There was somebody in the chat. Was it on your show, Santa? That was like, you need to know what Duel of the Fates means because it doesn't mean that. I'm like, that person's definitely happy right now.
Well, yeah, because I mean, Duel of the Fates has a meaning behind it. It's a crossroads for Anakin, right? And there's some context with when it appears in Revenge of the Sith, right? Okay. So there's context in there, and if you use it out of that context, like, oh, we got a really cool fight, let's put it in, right? Because it's a really cool song and a really cool fight. Well, the context of Duel of the Fates doesn't apply to that fight. Mm-hmm. So I hear Meg warming up.
All right, she's going la 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 la.
But if you so the concern was playing it here. If Duel of the Fates was here, would it cheapen Anakin's decision? Right, the context in Attack of the Clones. I tried to stop myself last time. Revenge of the Sith, right? Does it cheapen it by diluting it over other contexts? So people who really wanted Duel of the Fates, that was the complaint. Like, wait a second, you don't know what Duel of the Fates is and why.
Yeah, but Santa, you were very happy. Very happy. You practically cried with joy when they used Duel of the Fates in the Rise of Skywalker TV spot.
Look,
you stood up and you applauded. You wiped your tears. You got in your car. You ran to the store. You got all the Funkos of Rey. It was a spiritual moment.
He did the Arsenio thing. He was like whooping. No, remember that?
No, Meg probably doesn't. That. Oh, okay. I actually got called out one time for referencing Arsenio Hall, mm-hmm. and they're like, they had no context for how important his show was at the time.
Oh, it was big. Yeah, it was big.
Yeah. Anyway. President of the United States playing a saxophone, like that was, you know. But anyway, no. So look, I am not so stuck up on the deeper meanings that I can't appreciate them using Duel of Fates some other time. But for the people that's important to, you're right. They were happy that they had to be happy that it didn't get recontextualized here.
I find it really hilarious that they accidentally used Han Solo and the princess for Leia's death scene in Episode 9.
Yeah, they wanted to call. They're like, let's call back to that part people liked. But yeah,
right. It's. I guess you could say it's nostalgia gone wrong, right? Like, in the context of Duel of the Fates, if you just use it every time there's a cool fight, right? We got a lightsaber fight, Duel of the Fates. Well,
yeah, I was questioning that myself. I was like, you know, it's music, and then we put a text to music that says this is the Force theme or Obi-Wan's theme or whatever.
Mhm.
And I kind of usually go with, well, like, yeah, it's called Duel of the Fates in it, and thematically that text means this thing, but what's the emotional resonance when used against this image? Like that's sort of more of where I tend to fall on it. And I would rather have had Duel of the Fates in this, or some version of it, quotes of it in some way. You know, and like Duel of the Fates has like 3 really good parts to it that are very quotable and memorable. Down to the dun dun. Like there's that. There's so I feel like they could have done more with it on that front, but we also didn't have guys swinging like Errol Flynn on ropes and stuff.
Right.
And that, but we did have that big Force push. Oh, that was one of the things too I realized when I watched it second time. One of the first groups I put out was the big Force push. It was actually in this one. It was because we didn't know which duel was which duel.
Well, they did have the choir kind of motif in this, so it wasn't Duel of the Fates like that. I'm resisting singing it. I said you're welcome, but no, but they didn't copy that same line, but they did have a choir like ensemble in there. That motif showed up, so it was a bit of a reference without being too heavy-handed for folks, right? It very much gave me the same sort of feelings, but it just wasn't the same. Ba, ba, bum, bum, right? Like that you can't understand what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
I think Jason just needed a little nod to it. I think Vader should have looked at Obi-Wan and be like, I'm going to sing Duel of the Fates now.
Yeah.
And then he sings throughout the duel.
Oh, how
Although
about
he
this?
gets out of breath when his helmet slices off.
What is that? It's like a G minor or something when it starts. And I can't sing in pitch, but he would have just been like, whoa, and then the rock should have flown off. And then he's like, yeah, and then that's how it should have started. That's how I would have done it.
Is it a G minor?
Yeah, I think so. It's like, I think.
See, I could hear Meg warming up earlier. I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, anyways, I ultimately just wanted to say too, feel a little bit bad for anybody who steps into John Williams' seat in any way, no matter who it is. I mean, Giacchino's pretty amazing. So people go, well, but Giacchino's fucking amazing, you guys. like don't discount that aspect of it. But so in a way, I kind of feel bad for. I think that it, like, as a show, it was fine. I think it was fine. I think she, like, isn't I think she's a competent composer for TV by the looks of sounds of things, but I feel like she's gonna get a lot of shit for a long time for being involved in the project, probably.
I hope not. Yeah. And like I said earlier, I think that this will be some of the extremes on the ends of this should relax over time. I think this will age well, and that and I'm already seeing a lot of positivity for it. So I think years from now, this is going to feel organic. It'll be fine. As far as like TV shows, especially. So I hope she doesn't fall into a negative place with it. But this fandom, you could never tell. I want to ask, and I have to kind of dip out, but I want to ask that from the folks that this just didn't land with at all. So we have some friends that are part of our larger group that just said, no, I didn't
or
like
X-Wing
it at all.
I felt bad because last night it didn't work, and I was like,
yeah,
dude.
And well, X-Wing's one. My friend Rev Kev, he didn't like it at all. Right? There's lots of folks that are more in that space, And I've been challenging myself today, and a challenge not just a like knee-jerk or reflexive reaction, like, well, you just hate Star Wars. I don't want to say anything like that.
Yeah.
Or you're rejecting modern storytelling. Like there are default thoughts that kind of just come into my head, and I want to try to just explore what is the disconnect. What is that? And I know, Meg, some of these episodes really fell flat for you, and you really were unhappy. But what do you think's at the root of it? Like not just, well, this looked wonky, or this had a little bit of flow issue or something like that, right? But what's really at the root? There's got to be something deeper than just a surface level. I don't like Lucasfilm, or I don't like Disney, right? I think there's some of that, right? There's some, I don't like Disney and I'm going to reject everything they do. That is certainly present. But if we just slough that part off and we get into where people are really struggling, what's at the root of that? And I'm sorry, I got to dip out, but I'll catch you all later.
Talk to you soon, man.
Bye, Santa.
Thank you, Santa.
Bye. Thanks.
Yeah. So so Santa was asking what's at the root of it not working. I mean, maybe this is a cop out, but I kind of just think Star Wars, while it's completely the hugest, most public thing in the world, it's still like a really personal thing, because everybody kind of like has their personal moment where it hits home and it becomes their comfort cinema, if you will. And so when you throw something into that mix, and I think it doesn't perform in that same way for you for whatever reason, I just think it's hard to accept something in that fold at that level. Also hard to accept like if the Beatles were somehow resurrected today, John Lennon was cloned, and they made like a new Beatles record, and they're like, here's a new Beatles record, this is what it sounds like. I think people would be like, oh, I love it. And some people would be like, what the fuck? Because it's just like, how do you just put something into like the canon that's so important to you?
I think it's more the fact that, everything is subjective. I've heard a lot of opinions from people who didn't particularly like this show. And they range from anything from they didn't like Reva's character arc to they believe it broke canon, the continuity wasn't there, it felt cheap, the cinematography, the writing. There are tons of reasons. And especially when you have a fan base where a lot of people are coming in skeptical, kind of expecting subpar content. Not everyone, but a lot of people. I think you will get a mixed reaction like this.
Yeah.
I think oftentimes expectations are greater than realizations, and we can build things up in our mind before they're ever released. And when they then are released, they don't meet our expectations, whether that's fair or unfair.
Yeah. Qui-Gon was kind of like that for me in a weird way. I knew the scene. I love the moment, but as I was like looking at it and it was real, like the realization of that moment, like in my head, it was always like, and then Qui-Gon shows up and it's home run. Like no matter what, as I was looking at it, I was like, oh, now they're walking off in the desert. And then I started to realize like, this is like a real thing now. What do they do with that though? Really? Like, what does it really look like? How does it really play? And so we were talking last night on the show where like maybe that moment would have been stronger like without dialogue. And I kind of do think that ultimately that's probably true, but they because it's a character piece, I think they wanted to like capstone those little things like, yeah, we got work to do, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a hard one because like it didn't ruin it for me. But yeah, Jedi Mike says Qui-Gon looked like the dude. And it's like, and I was like, to me, it was weird seeing Qui-Gon look different. But my 8-year-old, he's like, he looks exactly the same. He thinks I'm crazy. It's like,
yeah, I didn't know. Like to me, that didn't jump off the page. I didn't necessarily feel like he looked different. I was waiting for a Qui-Gon moment earlier in the voice earlier in the episode.
Yeah,
and I was disappointed that didn't come. And maybe it would have made it a little bit more powerful to then see him later. I do felt it was almost like shoehorned in there, like, oh, we know that the fans have wanted to see Qui-Gon and we're going to give it to him real quick. It didn't really add anything to,
I personally disagree. I think that's what the show was building up to. They made a really big deal about Obi-Wan trying to reach out to him in the Force, and then literally the prequel montage at the start ended with Yoda telling Obi-Wan to go to Tatooine, where he's got extra training. An old friend has returned from the netherworld of the Force.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
And he does call out. He calls out to him, like he does almost as like little prayers, if you will, to Qui-Gon in a way where he's like, "Master, I need you now," kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so we are moving. But when they were making this show, Qui-Gon was in that hole with him. Not Luke and Leia's memories. It was the VO, and I think they must have decided it would be more powerful if it was Luke. If it was, because what they did in the end, what was different from the way I heard it, was that he was trapped, and then he bust out based off of Qui-Gon's coaching, and then he comes out and he's more powerful and he's supercharged because Qui-Gon's back. Like he's done it. He's made that moment. Instead, they went with, he goes down and he's in the hole and he hears all of the bad stuff that Vader's been saying to him that's trying to keep him down, but then the good stuff starts to overtake it, which I kind of thought was probably better. And then and then you think Qui-Gon's not going to come, and then he does at the end. So I don't know which one. I would love to see the one with Qui-Gon to see if it's better.
Yeah,
if they completed it, because like I don't know. I don't know if it's better that it was. It's probably better for the characters that it was Luke and Leia in the hole that he comes back to, that he in his mind. But yeah, when I was watching it, I was like, oh no, they cut Qui-Gon out because they're doing the second season, so they're saving all the Qui-Gon for next year, like that, or the next series. That's what my first watch, I was like, oh man, that's where this is going. But we got both. We got Qui-Gon at the end still, and we got, we still got the moment where he gets supercharged. So, I don't know how I feel about it yet. Yeah.
I do have to drop out, but
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everyone in the chat.
Bye, Meg.
Nice to meet you,
Bye,
Tom.
Meg.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Yeah, but I'm gonna I'm gonna probably like not watch it again tonight. I'm gonna probably take my little Star Wars break, and then I think like over the weekend I'm probably gonna try to do like a sitting where I just like watch all of them, and then do like a chat or a video or something about like the whole thing.
I'm watching 5 and 6 with my son when we get off of this stream. He's home from camp.
Nice.
And he didn't see, he started watching like the first 20 minutes of 5. And I was like, why don't you just hold off so we can watch 5 and 6 together?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's really excited to do that. And I kind of want to get the young, he's just turned 12. So I want to get that 12-year-old opinion of the shows. And I think it'll be neat to see it through his eyes.
Yeah. It's always crazy when you watch it with like when I watch it with my kid, there's just like these moments where I'm like, that was amazing, right? And they're just like, oh, who cares, man? And then there's something else, and they're just like, oh, that was the best. And you're like, okay. And like, I try not to influence them. I just want to like hear what he has to say.
There's times where my son gets super hyped for stuff, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I mean, I guess that was pretty cool, but he's just like bouncing off the walls. And then other times I'll be nerding out on something, and he'll be like, Dad, why are you so excited about that? Of course that should happen.
Yeah. It speaks to the like, the heavy load, if you will, that if these shows have to carry, that they got to make us old dads super happy, a spicy Meg happy, and then like 8-year-olds, at the same time. It's like,
you got to appeal to somebody. That's why when I hear, the negativity, I mean, everybody, especially on the internet, right? People love to be negative. And then, anybody can find something wrong with most anything if they want to look hard enough. And you're right. You have to appeal to so many people, to make it a success. And it's hard to make everybody happy. It's impossible, right? You can't make everybody happy.
That's what Ryan Johnson tried to say, and it made a lot of people mad.
Right.
in his own way. They're, he doesn't respect the fans. It's like, no, he's saying if George Lucas only thought about fans the whole time, he would be paralysis by analysis. He just wouldn't get anything done, and nothing would happen, or it would just be not inspired.
Yeah.
So totally. It's like, it's really difficult. I think this did a good job, though. I mean, it didn't feel checkboxy while being extremely checkboxy.
I think it did a great job. And I was thinking, I had to drop out there. I'm sorry for a minute, but
No worries.
when we were talking about, the sustainability of the show, and, we always kind of looked at Boba Fett as I guess the least popular of the series so far. And I don't have, other than the Mando episodes in that Boba Fett series, I don't have any desire to go back and watch it. But this, I think there will be rewatchability. And I think therein lies the major difference. If fans want to watch them again, that's a success. And if you don't want to watch it again, you need to figure out why. And I think that was what my head was going through when, Santa and Meg were talking about it, and I didn't want to interrupt them, but I want to watch Obi-Wan again. I don't want to watch Boba Fett again. I just don't.
Yeah. Boba Fett, it's like, it's Boba Fett proves you could add a bunch of features. Like, oh, he comes out of the Sarlacc, you guys. Oh, Cad Bane shows up. Oh, like all of these like checkboxy, once again, don't use that word, features. But if the features aren't very coherent, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter. You might as well just go on YouTube and watch the moment that you want to see.
I was just at Disney this past weekend. And I actually ran into a nice young kid that was from Colorado, and I noticed he had Boba Fett's blaster, the insignia on his arm, and then like a neat little like postage stamp tattoo of like Tatooine. So obviously this guy's a big fan. Obviously he's a Boba Fett fan. So we started talking about Obi-Wan at first, and we're nerding out over it.
Right.
And then I go to, well, what did you think of Boba Fett? Because I even said to him, like, I see that you're a huge Boba Fett fan, and he's like, well, I love the first episode because I wanted to see him break out of the Sarlacc. And I'm like, yeah, that was pretty cool. I get that. And he's like, but then it kind of got slow. And then I love the Mando episodes. And I'm like, this is a huge Boba Fett fan, right? He's such a fan that he has tattoos on his arm that are nothing but basically Star Wars and Boba Fett. Yeah. And he's kind of like, eh. And when it doesn't appeal to even the hardcore fan of the individual character, again, they missed the mark. I mean, they just did.
Yeah, and and to bring it back to Kenobi with this instance, with Vader and Obi-Wan, I don't think they missed it. I think they actually like respectfully designed a story around the characters that it doesn't it didn't feel slow to me. I'm curious I don't know if it will feel slow to me after I have the whole thing memorized. You know what I mean? Like
I thought
watch
the
it verbatim,
but great. And I also liked how they drew a lot from the flashback or the memory, whatever we're calling it. Like when they're back to back and then Obi-Wan turns and twists away from him. There were a lot of moves that were from that memory flashback fight that I thought was really cool, that we got to kind of see it twice with Anakin and then with Vader. I thought the fight played great. I mean, it was a much better fight than the first one, but I think the first one had a reason. And the reason was they were trying to show that Obi-Wan wasn't powerful and he needed to get his butt kicked. But as you've also indicated, they can't do anything where, Vader cuts off Obi-Wan's hand because Obi-Wan has his hands. Like, you can't do something that you can't scar Obi-Wan because we know he doesn't have a scar. So it's very difficult to play within this box that they need to, end up in, so to speak, and still progress the story. And I think they did it, with all the constraints they had. I think they did a great job. I mean, I think it really played well.
I'm pretty in love with it. I can't lie. I feel happy like I got a Star Wars movie. And for the record, I like the Mando a lot. I really do. I have a good time with it. I love it. But I never felt like happy like I got for me, like I got a Star Wars movie from it. I thought like I got more Star Wars and I like it a lot. And
I feel like Mando, I get Star Wars moments from it. Like the season finale where you see Luke walk through that door. That was something I've wanted to see my entire life since Return of the Jedi. I wanted to see Luke dominating the Force and kicking serious butt, right? And we got to see that. But it wouldn't have filled a movie. I mean, you couldn't have done that in a movie form.
Yeah.
This I do, as I said earlier, I do think that it would have been a tighter, more cohesive story had it been a movie. But I'm not complaining about it. I like it for what it is. I do think I see elements of a movie in it, and it probably would have played tighter. But again, I'm just nitpicking and kind of overanalyzing it.
Oh no, yeah, no. I mean, it's always interesting to think about what could have been or what should have been with these kind of things, because
and just knowing the history of the project and how it's
Yeah.
different iterations, right? I mean,
I don't personally believe Trevorrow's episode 9 would have really been better than the episode 9 that we have. It just would have been
different.
And that's not my favorite Star Wars movie.
Right.
But at the same time, I still always go like, and forever, I think we'll always wonder what would the Kenobi, or how much better would it have been had it been a film. But things I heard about the movie, I did not like compared to what we got. So I think that they fixed more problems than they made when Joby made it. What do they call it? A teleplay. But Charles, thank you for the $10 super chat, dude. I appreciate it a lot, man. He says, Jace, I'm an OT guy, so this new Star Wars isn't designed for me. Yet I do enjoy most of it. The Last Jedi excluded. My question is, while Disney signs the check, do they supervise Lucasfilm, or does Lucasfilm have free reign? To be honest with you, like at that kind of level of how shit works, I'm not 100% sure. I think if they were doing something really, really ridiculous, then it would Disney would step in. Or if they were doing something that seemed like it was, not the best use of their money, they would step in. But I think basically like Kathleen Kennedy is a super competent, producer who knows the industry, knows what she's doing. So I have a feeling that they probably have some sort of corporate organization, some sort of structure where she brings and says, here's our plan. And then they nod and go like, you know what you're doing. And yeah, of course. And they probably don't really, oh, you're making a Quinlan Vos story. I don't think they care about it at that level. I think they care like, well, we're doing 4 features. We're doing that. You know what I mean? We have 4 shows for Disney, but I think it's more about like that. I think it's more about like the specifics of what they're going to like deliver. So in a weird way, if the subtext might be to your question, how might Disney F with Lucasfilm really hard? It might be that like they give them, let's just make up a dollar amount, 500 million, and say, give us 6 shows. And then they're like, we want you to deliver 6 shows in 2023 for 500 million. And then now they're like, oh, because then that's going to obviously affect how big or how they dream or how they conceptualize their like stories and stuff. So but I've never really heard bad things about Disney and money. Yeah. And Chillmonger, Kathy Kennedy is ultra competent, to be honest with you. I know you might have your criticisms or whatever. At the end of the day, she has delivered quite a bit of successful content throughout her career, and even with Star Wars. If it wasn't actually getting a good return, she would not be there. There would be no reason for her to be there. They would get rid of her like fast if they thought she was truly crashing there. See, Disney will tell them what they want, will give them money to do what Disney wants. And that's been one of the things that has happened over the years that makes me defend Kennedy Chillmonger is when something's not going right, she goes, this is going to be painful, but we're going to fix it. And then they fix it instead of just releasing it. The one time that they just released it instead of fixing it was episode 9. So if you love episode 9, then that's what it looks like when because Kennedy, films go wrong all the time. Most films go wrong. Most films are not good films. If you went to the theater to see every release this year, you would probably be able to count the good films on one hand. I mean, ultimately. And Kennedy gives you movies that you continue to remember, not just because it has a Star Wars name on it. Like Star Wars has had stuff come out and fade into obscurity. Nobody's talking about Clone Wars 2008, and it's like, it's not like a movie that comes up. We've forgotten it. But for the most part, the Star Wars movies that she's done have resonated. And for a continual process of making stories and films, it's a lot harder than what Lucas was doing, where he would sit around for 15 years saying he's going to write a trilogy, and then finally gets to it, and then does it, and takes 3 years to do each one, and then takes a couple years off. And like they're not doing it that way. They're continually making content. And also the other thing is too is that there's a lot of producers involved in this too. I don't think Kennedy should just get all of the credit. Like that, what's his name? That one dude, Jason McCaitlin, I think is his name. That dude's been on like most of the stuff. He's produced almost all of it. So it's hard to like take a corporate structure or even a business like making a film and then talk about it in a way about who's responsible, and like because it almost comes down to like this like lens, like it's WWE wrestling, and then you try to apply that to that. It just it kind of gets comical in a way, because I don't think it's not that saucy. Like the internet makes it all really, really saucy. Whenever I hear people talking about dealing with producers on Star Wars, it's fucking boring, to be honest with you. It's all like, oh no, we're having problems, inflation. Do we do season 2 in Pinewood? Uh-oh. Like that's what the stuff is like. It's not like what's his name? Chapek. Chapek is trying to undercut Kennedy because she's like and stuff like that. It that stuff has happened. I mean, that kind of stuff has happened in corporations. That kind of stuff happens. There's backstabbing and stuff, but most of stuff's been boring over the years, and the that I've heard anyway. So, but maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know all the saucy stuff, But that said, Force Awakens, smashing success. I know, like our friend who's just on the chat right now was like, I don't really like the Last Jedi. Last Jedi was a big success, actually. They make it sound like it wasn't, but it was the third movie with Rogue One, and so you were going to have it start to like get tired, and that tiredness. But it's not until you get to Solo that you go like, well, there you go. It's just a big descent to nothing, and not really true, because you had that big Force Awakens splash. That big, we haven't done Star Wars in decades, or almost 2 decades or whatever it was. I can't remember, 15 years. And so you end up going like, it becomes like a big deal. So of course people are going to start to go, yeah, okay, Star Wars is here. And so it's really about, for them, when they get back into this next phase though, I think that's, I think it will solidify her Star Wars legacy if the next round of films deliver. If it's messy,
I hope they do. I hope
they do too. I mean, and just to like be clear, like I love the classic films that Kathleen Kennedy was a part of. Like I love all of them. I also don't think just because you were Steven Spielberg in 1980, or the guy who made Jaws and Close Encounters and E.T. and and stuff like that, means that the movie you make in 2022 is going to be good. It doesn't mean that. Like, you lose your mojo, your passion, your perspective, your ability to connect with general audiences and stuff like that. Like, it does happen. So I don't really, so if Kennedy's there or not, I don't really think it changes our lives that much as Star Wars fans. I really don't. I mean, it's going to be a different manager.
Past success doesn't dictate, future success. I mean, but got to root for them.
Yeah, for sure. And there does come a point where even I think there would come a point, even if they continue to do really good. Let's just say they do really good. There will come a point where it will be good for Star Wars for Kennedy to move on, and for somebody else just to be like, let's try this. Let's take what's working and try it differently now. Let's shake it up. Every now and then, I think that would be a positive thing. Because what we have right now, though, is like, I love Kenobi. I really, truly am happy that we got it. It might be my favorite thing that they have done in the Disney era right now. Maybe it's the thing I saw last night, so I don't want to jump to conclusions too quick. I might just be on a buzz from last night.
That's a pretty powerful statement, though.
But I mean, when I think of it, like, do I think, just as a crafted piece of film or television or media, like, is it better than the Last Jedi? No, it's not more well made than a Rian Johnson picture. It doesn't matter if you like The Last Jedi or not. It's just, I mean, it's pretty evident. Like, just that production is fucking stellar. But in terms of like The Force Awakens, like, yeah, I like it. I like it. It's a good time. But you know, I also like, I could watch it or I could not. You know, I could take it or leave it. If the house was on fire and I can only grab a couple of Star Wars things, Force Awakens wouldn't be one of them. You know, of the movie collection, I'd be like, yeah, I'll get that later. I'll get that back later. But you know, but which ones am I going to grab? And so this one right now might be because it's the newest one, but it's the one I would definitely want with my Revenge of the Sith. Like those, and Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars movie, so this clearly works.
See,
for me.
I probably like The Force Awakens better than The Last Jedi.
Mhm.
It's just fun. I mean, and I'm not, being critical of your opinion and not.
No. It's really cool, man.
But I just, I wish, I still in my heart of hearts wish they would have had a cohesive story. They would have had a storyboard for 1, 2, and 3, and they would have stuck to it. And because I think that what just crushed that trilogy was a lack of a plan. And and if you've discussed before, they might not do trilogies again because the single movies are easier. And I wish, because I loved Rey, like I love those characters and the setup in The Force Awakens, and just what they did with what they had to work with after that setup. I just felt, immensely let down. And had there been a plan, I don't think that I would have been let down in the same way.
Yeah, that's kind of, I think when they were dealing with so much legacy, that's where I think that plan or that outline that we're sticking to, you could expand it, you could make it better, but this is the outline that we're sticking to it. Like I think I would have made episode 9 ultimately a good.
Well, just if they had said, okay, we're going to ask the question, who is Rey? And then here's the answer.
Yeah.
If they said, here's how we're going to handle Luke, and we're going to, if they had a plan, here's what we're going to do with Poe. Here's what we're going to do with all the characters. If they just had a plan, and it could have been general, but had they had a plan and stuck to it, it would have made that trilogy so much. And it might have made The Last Jedi, even if that's the direction they were going to go. I think that my problem with The Last Jedi is that they set a lot of this stuff up and started to go in a different direction. And then they're like, yeah, no, forget about it. I mean, you could almost not watch that movie and just watch the Force Awakens and The Rise of Skywalker and not really miss too much. I mean, and that's a shame. That's a shame.
Yeah, when it comes to when it comes to the whole serialized storytelling, like that one, it had heavy lifting to do. But I think when they go forward, what they're going to do is they're going to, like I said, drop the trilogy thing, because the problem with the Rey's story was trying to fit all of that into a trilogy format. It wasn't right. It wasn't right for a trilogy. It was right for a series of films with characters that would have resolutions at their natural moments in the greater story. And instead they're like, well, here you go, Finn. I guess you got the Force now. Oh, here you go. Well, you got to be a Palpatine because you got to be somebody. And then, all of these things had to, like Luke Skywalker being defeated and then coming back. Like I personally really love that, but I don't think it necessarily was the best thing for a trilogy. But if it was a series of 5 films that made up that story, I would have been like, yeah, it would have worked better. So when you and I start our Star Wars story of Stevie McStarfarts, Stinky McStarfarts, and then they're probably going to let us make the first movie, and then we'll continue to they'll give us okay, you were successful, people love Stinky Starfarts, and then now we're going to give you the second movie, and then we'll probably figure out what we would do with the third if they give it to us at that point, and then hopefully make it good. I think that's like the model that they're going to use. That's what it sounded like they were going to do with the Game of Thrones guys. If they were going to give them 2 films with the option for a third and more. And I think,
and I've heard you talk about kind of the Marvel construct of, individual Iron Man, Captain America, all these films, and they tie a thread and then they bring it all together in a culmination of 1 or 2 films. That's cool too. Like, give me a Rey story, give me a Poe story, give me a Finn. And I mean, obviously, they have to be entertaining stories in and of themselves, and I have to want to go see them.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
But you know, and then bring it all together in a grand finale way. That's cool. Like, I dig that. But you know, that's really yet to be seen. And again, you know, with Solo, for example, to me, they set some stuff up, and then they're like, "Oh, this movie didn't do as well as we had hoped. We're just dropping it," and that's a disappointment too. Like, would have loved to have seen Darth Maul, you know, with his bionic legs in the next. You know, I would have loved to have seen some of that. Like, let's continue that. That was a great way to end that movie. And well, because the movie didn't live up to expectations, all that's gone. Like, forget about it. Like, we're never going to see that again in live action. And they did kind of finish it in Rebels. But as Rob has indicated, most Star Wars, or let's say, I don't know, at least 50% probably don't watch the cartoons.
Oh yeah,
So,
I'm gonna say I would love to know what that actual number is, because it's like, yeah, well, I mean, Star Wars Rebels had a small viewership. It wasn't as big as Clone Wars, even, because Disney XD, they were trying to use Star Wars to grow Disney XD, and Disney XD, most people couldn't even get it.
Right.
If you wanted
I said to a few buddies that have kids around my age, I said, have you guys seen Rebels? Like, have you? And then my buddy's like, no. I'm like, dude, you have to watch it with your kids. He's like, really? It's a cartoon. I'm like, yeah, but it's got a good story and it's really fun, especially in the later seasons. And they finish it, and inevitably I get a phone call, dude, that was really good stuff, you know. And one thing it's resonated with me with the fight with Obi-Wan. I think they pulled that broken mask scene from Rebels because they realized not enough people saw it, and it was badass.
Yeah.
And they were like, we got to show more people the maskless Vader, right? Like, and it worked. It was so awesome. Like, that was so powerful, seeing his eye and just seeing that human, you know, face beneath that iconic mask, and then the voice and the crackling of the speaker. Like, that really, all that Vader stuff in this episode was so stinking good. Yeah. And I think a lot of that derived from Rebels, you know?
Oh yeah. We could go like, oh, of course it was a natural idea. You would do that somewhere. And that's probably true. But when you look at what they did pull from Rebels into the Kenobi series, you can't overlook that one. You can't go like, oh yeah, the fifth brother, the Grand Inquisitor, the concept of Inquisitor, like all this stuff, and then go, oh, but that one's not a part of it. Of course it is. Yeah, of course Rebels gave us that. That's why, like ultimately, Rebels, I have my critiques of the zany stuff in Rebels at times, but Rebels gave us a lot more good than bad overall.
For
so
sure.
Like that's why I'm like, yeah, Rebels is worth it.
It's what has me a little bit worried about Ahsoka, just because they have to do a good job of bringing the audience up to speed, because if it's going to truly be a continuation of that Rebel story and people haven't seen it, you're going to be sitting there and you're going to, what am I, like, what, why am I supposed to care about these characters? Who are these people again? Like, who, you know, and you can't expect people to go back and watch a cartoon, especially adults. And it's unless they have a good way of bringing the viewers up to speed. And I'm sure if they do some kind of a montage, but they have to do something to really fill in the backstory, because if not, people are going to be, what is this? What is this show about?
When
who is Ezra? Why should I care about Ezra?
Did you hear the rumor that I posted about how they're getting the Vader team back together?
Yes,
like the two guys who played him, everything like that.
For sure.
Yeah, my and then Hayden is in Ahsoka as well. So my take is right now, just my working theory is that they're going to show that temple moment with the mask gets cracked, and with Ahsoka and Ezra's there watching it, explain that he saved the Rebel Alliance, like at this one, or as it was forming in this moment. Right. But how, and then I think if you go,
they'll refilm that in like a live action?
That's what I think that's my theory, that it's going to go, they're going to show that and then tell us that Ezra saved the Alliance and he's lost and we got to save that guy. Like we have
that'd be awesome.
Almost like, I think he might be treated like a POW almost. You know what I mean? Like that's our boy. Yeah. We lost him. He did stuff for us. We don't just forget about that and go on because the Empire fell. Like, right. I kind of think that's where how they might do it, or that's one way.
But they also have to give us a little bit of Thrawn too, because if Thrawn's going to be a major character, you got to assume maybe the big bad guy. We got to kind of know. I mean, again, can't assume people read the comics, can't assume people
Yeah.
read the books, can't assume people watch the cartoons.
No, you
So
can ask them to.
who's this
You can
blue
ask them.
dude?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You
But if
can't-
they
you
did it
can't-
like if they did what you're saying in like almost like an Obi-Wan episode 1 where they gave that whole montage of the prequels, if they did it like that, gave you like a 5-10 minute little
live
exposition,
or that montage, but live action Rebels, like boom, 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 boom of the important.
how cool would that be?
That would be badass. That would not make me mad at
Nope,
all.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would rock. They should do that. I would not be mad if they did that. But also,
It'd be a great start. I mean, you're giving us the backstory in live action, and all you have to do is carbon copy the cartoon. You know, take out the you don't have to even make it as over the top as the cartoon was, and just make it live action with some good CGI in parts, and it would be epic.
It would. No, it would. That would. Not only would it get everybody up to speed, but you would get a succinct, tiny little mini concentrated Star Wars story. That's really good because the Rebel story is good. And then
you would excite the people you'd excite people like you and me that have already seen it and love it. We'd be like, oh my God, this is like seeing it all over again with a whole new set of eyes, and it'd be great.
Max from Star Wars Post says, going to be great when they have to explain space whales. Maybe Obi-Wan was eating them in that one episode. No, yeah. I mean, I think I don't think they will explain it. I'm curious if they do. I mean, Bail Organa did reference them. He wanted to go out and study the Purgles or whatever. With something like that. Okay, I'm bad at quoting stuff, but he so it was dropped in there. But I wouldn't be surprised if they just kind of showed these giant creatures in space, and then they just show it all go to light speed, and then Ahsoka just simply narrates, and then he went to it jumped to light speed, and we never saw them again or whatever.
It's funny you bring that up because in those same conversations I had with people that I told to watch it, and they called me at the end. They were like, yeah, but those space, like, what was that all about? And I'm like, well, yeah, they kind of were the way that they discovered light speed and they're natural creatures. And they're like, yeah, that was really weird. So that, even those things for some of my friends, they had a hard time wrapping their head around.
Yeah. And then I'm a weirdo, and I find that concept to probably be more realistic in the universe biologically than us creating it. You know what I mean? Like some biological organism figuring out how to move through space and time and stuff like that probably makes, in a weird way, more sense. But it's outside the box when we live in, I don't know, spaceship culture. Well, I don't know what you want to call Star Wars and the current iteration of sci-fi, but yeah, it's like spaceship culture or something. So it's just so outside the box, Right. But that's why I liked it, because I liked that weird stuff being in Star Wars. I don't ever I wouldn't ever want it to become like where we just see Purgles and they're just tying rafts to Purgles going through the galaxy, like stuff like that. It would be ridiculous. But the idea that it's something as insane as that can happen and then plays into like a story, that stuff's rad. And that's where I think Star Wars wasn't being conservative, and that would be my and I don't mean this politically, but I mean the Kenobi story is very conservative. It's very what are all of the right calls? Let's do it. It's not a super challenging story. The big challenging moment was, how do we get Obi-Wan Kenobi off Tatooine to tell this story, and they aced it. But past that, it's very much I don't want to say it. I feel like I'm putting it down, but it's so it's not completely just left field, but also brilliant at the same time. It's just a bunch of right calls for what you would expect to them to do with the story, to do it well. Yeah. And they ultimately did that. So I do like that mixture of that of like I said, Purgles and then Kenobi. Give me just really, really good Star Wars. I also feel like Solo, a Star Wars story, was mostly conservative Star Wars in that way, and it's a time when it didn't necessarily pay off, because and I think you could hold Kenobi and Solo against each other to an extent, because I feel like I'd have to jump. I'm not saying I don't like it and I don't want it to exist and I don't enjoy it for what it is, because I do. It's fun. But when I watch it, like I don't feel like I need it for Han Solo. I don't feel like I need it to understand Han Solo. I don't feel like it really enhanced Han Solo. I don't feel like I feel a different,
Well, it
a
suffers
better
from the
way.
same thing you were talking about, in that you have to fit it into this box. He has to end up the same guy that we knew. Not too much. They couldn't change anything about him, right? Like, so they have to fill in all this backstory that I don't know, might entertain us, but at the end of the day, at the end of the movie, it's not going to change him. Right. And so when you don't have character growth and the ability to kind of, progress the story, those older movies, or the movies that they're trying to be like prequel movies, they don't really enhance the character, because the character has to end up where they are at the beginning of episode 4, for example. And so that's the hard thing to overcome and make you entertained. And I think that's part of what Solo suffered from in the end.
Because you really can't enrich the moments with, I love him, but a dumb cowboy. You really kind of can't do it.
Right.
But
I mean, they tried
at
the time, I remember watching it and be like, oh man, I think it's so cool that we get to know that this robot now is the computer in the Millennium Falcon, and it makes that C-3PO line when he's talking to the Millennium Falcon in Empire Strikes Back, and how it has an odd dialect. Like, oh, that's funny, ha ha ha. But it's not really rewatchable funny. Like, it's great the first time, but after that, it's like, there's nothing much to go back to.
Like when we watch A New Hope, and then Obi-Wan says, "Only a master of evil, Darth." We're going to think about this moment in this series
when he calls him Darth, right?
That has emotional resonance, and now it's made it deeper, and it's made it like, yes, thank you, I'm glad.
Made it more powerful, right?
Made
it more powerful.
And that line was not important, not really. Kind of, you didn't really need to think about it too much, and now it's better. Right. And so that's kind of that's where I'm like I always like to ask the question, like, did it need to exist? And it's easy. It's kind of not fair when you're like watching an episodic series, because some just don't, because you just need to get someplace different to change it up. Like a Mandalorian, I don't ask that every single time, but I would ask it holistically, like about the season. Did the season need to exist? And like right now, Solo, Book of Boba Fett, my answer is not really. They didn't need to exist. No. But like Kenobi, I feel like it really, really did. It deserves to exist. Mando needs to exist. It does make everything deeper and better. And so yeah, it's like fans are really mean, and they're really unforgiving, and it's like sometimes things just don't come together. Like, just sit down and take a pen right now and try to draw a picture, and then do it again, and then do it again. How many of those times you sat down just to draw the picture, did it come together like how it should have, or what you wanted? Maybe one of them. So like it's hard to have a high batting average with Star Wars. I mean, they got the money, they got the talent, and so we shouldn't accept mediocrity, because they have the ability. Yeah. But sometimes, like I think Book of Boba Fett was just one where it just did not come together. It just did not congeal in a way that was a tasty pie, But I still, it didn't need to exist, but I'm glad it does. I'm glad it does exist, though, because there are times when I will just be like, I want to watch Boba Fett get out of the Sarlacc, or I am just like, I do want to kind of see Boba Fett ride a Rancor, because why not? That sounds. You want to
see Boba Fett get high on Space Lizard?
Yeah, I want to see him go out, to Burning Man, which I actually kind of thought was funny, because Kenobi's name was production name was Joshua Tree. It's also where they filmed some of the Mapuzo exterior stuff.
Cool.
And that's where people go. If you live in Southern California, that's where you go to do Space Lizard. That's where people go to do mushrooms and camp out and not shave their armpits, but somehow still be hot. I don't know. It happens, but that's a Joshua Tree. So
cool.
Yeah. But also thought it was I didn't know if it was an inside joke for a long time, because I didn't know Mapuzo was going to be Joshua Tree specifically, but I was like, oh, okay, so he's going to go out into the desert and have the transformative experience. That's what people do in Joshua Tree here. So I was like, but I still think it might be sort of a double entendre, if you will, for that meaning. Oh, here's my my twin brother people don't know about, David Ward. Actually, I don't know him. When Obi-Wan says to Leia that they will meet again, but they need to be careful, does it explain her hologram message in episode 4? Yeah, I think both of those, both that message and the one with Belle, where it's like, I hope you don't need to call me. You know, he's like, if you need me, I'll be there, but I hope you never need me. And you know, which is a nice way. It wasn't him going, I don't want to help you. It was him going like, hopefully everything's great from here on out, you know? And, but that's what it either explains next time or A New Hope. And that's what fans need to remember. These little plot things are modular, and they're going to put little things in to make something else work down the road. So if they never continue the story, it's A New Hope.
I was waiting in that scene, honestly, for him to touch her head or some little Jedi power to make her kind of forget. Like, I was kind of like waiting for him to be like, we can't talk about this again, and I'm going to take these memories from you really quick.
Yeah.
You know, but they didn't do it. They didn't go there, which I was actually happy they didn't go there. But I was kind of waiting for this like force power that we didn't know about of the forgetting, you know, like, you don't remember me anymore.
Yeah.
These aren't the memories you're looking for.
Yeah. I'm glad that didn't happen, because then it would be like, well, does it matter? Like, that's how it kind of, like the character progression that would have been.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
But I was hoping, somebody suggested in the chat one day, I'm sorry, I don't remember who originally suggested it to me, but they're like, what if he, like, when he talks about Padme to her, gives her the image, and then like that's how she knows Padme. And I was like, oh, that would have been cool, you know. That I was trying to find this message from Baymax. We were deep in conversation. I wanted to pull up, but Baymax says he thinks his son is having. Oh, here it is. I think this is it. My 8-year-old was riveted with any Leia scenes. I think he's got a first crush.
Oh.
We had that same thing in our house, but it was more of the I want to punch you. It was my son going, I don't like these scenes with Leia, and then he would be like, where's Leia at? When is she coming back? And I would be like, yeah, do you wish she was cut out? He's like, no. And he'd be like, I don't like it. And then when little Luke comes on, my last night, my daughter goes, he's ugly. And she's like, he's ugly. and I was like, so do you think Luke Skywalker is like a super good looking guy? And then she goes, no, I just think he's ugly. And I was like, okay. And then later on, she's like, is he in any other movies? Because I want to see another movie with him. And I was like, I see what this is. You guys both do the I don't like them because you like them thing. So yeah, it was pretty funny though. But yeah, when I was probably Chewbacca's. I heard the Chewbacca's. When I was probably, I think I was
sorry.
No, it's okay. When I was like 4 years old, I went to the ice cream truck, bought Return of the Jedi trading cards off the ice cream truck. I go in my go.
Do you still have them? They might be worth money.
No, I don't actually have them. You could find them though. You could find them. They're around. You'll see them at like full boxes at conventions and stuff. But I opened it up, chomping on the gum, stale gum. I'm like, yeah, looking at the cards. I got a Princess Leia one, and I'm like, man, you're a foxy lady. And then I look at the Princess Leia card. I look around, and I kiss the card, kissing the card. And then my dad walks in. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, I think that's maybe my first memory of being like really embarrassed. You know what I mean? Like really embarrassed. But you know what? Carrie Fisher was fine as fuck. So take that, Dad. I've come to terms with it, and it was cool. No, I did not grow up to get full body pillow sized things with Carrie Fisher on it. So it worked out. It worked out. But anyways, we did it. We did it. We've seen Kenobi. It
was awesome.
We got the whole thing. I think overall, I'm elated. I think you sound super happy.
I loved it, man.
Santa was super happy. Meg, who is a tough customer, still pretty happy. I think
she seemed like she was happy. Yeah. Santa seemed to love it too. I mean, I just, as I said, I wish we could have gotten them all at once. I think it would have made it. I think people wouldn't have had such a negative reaction to some of the episodes like they did. I mean, sure, you can still nitpick the CGI here, the music there. You know, this angle, the editing.
Mm-hmm.
We can still pick some of that stuff apart, but the overall story is much more cohesive when you have all 6 of them, which obviously makes sense. But it just made it really come together in a much more powerful way.
Yeah, big time. And I'm not saying this is a good thing necessarily, but when Phantom Menace came out and Ewan's hair has that weird wig on and Padawan braids on the wrong side and everyone's like, what the hell, man, on the internet, I felt a little nostalgia when we started getting a little bit like people were like picking on certain like just really dumb things. I was like, we're back. we're back at it. But yeah,
back at Star Wars.
Dude, anytime you want to come in and hang out on the show, man,
thanks a lot for the invite.
It was great. Great talking to you.
Yeah, man. I'm sorry I had to dip out for a minute. I had to deal with something, but thanks so much for having me. It was a great time. You're rocking these shows. It's been great getting all the spoilers from you. You know, we all love what you do, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, anytime you want to come back, you are always invited.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. I'm gonna dip out.
Bye. So, everyone, thank you for being a channel member. I know I did this one at a kind of a weird time today. The time kept changing and stuff like that, but we will do more like this pretty soon, and I'll try to do them like more on the weekend, so that way, you know, it's not while people are working their 9-to-5ers. You know, maybe make it if anybody's interested, by all means, let me know, and even hit me up and let me know like what some good times would be to do that, because it's great reading your chats every day, but you know, it would be great to have you guys come on and just to talk with you for a few minutes at least, just to hear what you guys think and stuff like that. And you know, especially after something big like Kenobi. But now, welcome to Cassian season, you guys. It's now Cassian season. It's time to begin thinking about Cassian and moving forward with that, and waiting for that one to come. And I'm looking forward to approaching that series with you guys. And I think Cassian's going to have just different features. I think it's going to have like such different, you know, it's going to look better. It's going to be made at Pinewood. It's going to have like more of a film production at times. I wouldn't expect that to go across the board all the time, because it still is going to be a TV show. Never forget that. No matter what it should be or is, it's always going to be a TV show. But I think that the production value of Cassian is going to be felt. I almost wonder if in a weird way this is going to be kind of a mixed blessing of Kenobi looking on the cheaper side but being a really good story, because then Cassian is going to look really good, but it's going to, you know, not going to have necessarily going to have the same Jedi arc in it. But I'm excited, and I always say it's a good time to be a Star Wars fan. I always write that in my articles, because it's exciting. Every single time something new comes out, it's an opportunity for something that could be really, 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 really rad. But also keep your expectations in check always, so that way you're not disappointed, not disappointed too hard. You know, still waiting for Wade to get a spinoff series. But guys, I'm not hearing anything. Not hearing good things about a Wade spinoff series. But Wade, I'll never forget you. It's the last time I'm gonna do this. I promise. Yeah. We still don't even know if he was a boyfriend. I think she moved on already, if that was his girlfriend. But anyways, I'll be back tomorrow. I think I'll be back tomorrow. I think the plan is to come back tomorrow. It all depends. I might take tomorrow off, but then you know me. If I do, I'll end up picking up the slack and doing like 3 shows over the weekend or something crazy. But everyone, have a good time with the old Kenobi series now that it's out. I suggest trying to give it, when you fill up to it, give it the watch of all 5, or I mean all 6 in a go, and with that momentum, not that week-long wait in between a few of them, and see how you like it. And so I'll see you guys tomorrow.
It's the end of the show.
Come on, let's go. Hey!
It's the end of the show.
Come on, let's go. Hey!
It's the end of the show.
Come on, let's go. Hey!
You know you should go.
Come on, let's go.
It's not about spaceships.